I thought this anime was done for at episode 13 when Dark Schneider ripped his heart out and fell at Nei's feet. But apparently I was wrong, and there are new episodes to this anime. It's only right that we review this series from episode 14 to episode 24 to finish it off. For the most part, the plot remains the same. The antagonists want the seal that will help revive the God of Destruction, and the good guys have to stop them, but there is a change that lowered my rating of the show. Abigail reveals that he isn't trying to create some paradise, but actually just wants to destroy the world, and honestly, I'm not a fan. The I want to destroy the world just to destroy it plot is weak to me. They removed a layer to the antagonist's motivation that gave them more depth, and now I'm just like, oh, your motivation is boring. In terms of what they do with characters, Nay's still my favorite character in this entire story, but I hate what they did with her personality. She went from this badass to a simp. Like literally, she went from a badass to a simp. And that's the running thing about the show. Eventually, everyone just becomes a simp for Dark Schneider. Bloody hell. All the cool characters are like unlocking a boss in a game. They're badass when you fight them, but are super lackluster when they join your side. And then there's Yoko. I made a point in my last review that as the story progresses, Yoko will be less useful to the plot of the anime. And I stand by the statement. For the most part, she just stands around and watches people fight, which is annoying because, hey, your Dark Schneider's one weakness. It would really help if you went out in the open where people could snatch you up and use you against them. If Dark Schneider needs a love interest so bad, then I would take Sheila. Like, being in love with a girl who also happens to be the seal that the bad guys are looking for would have made for a far more interesting story to me. But hey, I'm not the writer. I actually love how they handle Sheila in these last episodes. She went from just another princess to somebody crucial to the plot of the show. Look man, I just don't like it when I look at a character and all I can say is, if you left the stage, the story could still work. Another one of my criticisms for this show is that it's afraid to commit to deaths. There's moments when Nate and Gara sacrifice themselves and it could have been great points in the anime, but they find a way to come back just 5 seconds later, and all those moments of sacrifice lose their gravity. Even Dark Schneider comes back in one single episode. Bloody hell. Even the swords they sacrificed themselves came back. I'm just saying, adding increased stakes and consequences would have made for a deeper connection with me. Just think about the ending. They tried to make this big spectacle where everyone dies and Yoko asks for help with Lucian. All that went through my mind was, you just spent the last few episodes showing me that people on the show will come back like it's nothing. Like, why would this moment have any emotional impact on me? The anime also tries to have a comedic element to it, but the timing just always seems off and takes away from serious moments when it doesn't need to. In the first half of the show, I felt like there was a lot of exposition, and that's still evident here. People are just always talking, man. During Dark Schneider and Abigail's fight, everyone is just standing and commenting. It made me feel like they didn't have enough content to actually fill the episodes, so they just made shit up. Also, why does nobody think, hey, Abigail is fighting and is distracted. This is a good time to escape and hide the princess. But everyone was just chilling. Speaking of fights, there isn't a lot of fight choreography in this. It's just people blasting energy at each other for the most part. And that's okay. This show isn't a martial arts show, and it actually makes for a cool light show. The fights and most moments are accompanied by a rock metal influenced soundtrack. The music is actually not that bad. I think it complements the show really well. That's one of the few dubs in the show. The voice acting is actually good in this. The one thing that annoys me is just how much the main character actually screams. Like, bruh, you scream so much. Bruh. But other than that, I think they made good choices with the voice actors, and that goes for the dub too. There's moments where I switched to the dub just to hear if I could watch it in English. And you know what? I'm not mad at it. The villains need work, but I'm not mad at it. Character designs are cool as well. There is one Dark Schneider fit that I looked at and I was like, that's fire. That's fire. But everything else was designed to match the times that the show was happening in. I will say though, the Count is still the only character I look at and say, oh, you have the metal influence that's a part of the title. For the most part, if you switch off your brain, I think you could get through the show and enjoy it more than I did. You need to take the show for what it is, which is fighting, cool spells, and a lot of fan service. There's no real deep storyline. I mean, they try to add mystery with the whole Dark Schneider and God of Destruction connection and something about him being a dragon warrior, but generally, it's not a story-based anime where the plot will have you foaming at the mouth. Personally, I would have dropped this anime if I didn't have to do this review. I would give this show a rating of 5.5 out of 10.